Okay. Yes, Yochanan. How are you? Can you hear me?
Yeah. You're coming
Yes.
in.
Okay. Welcome everyone that's joining us. Nussi, thank you for joining us. Yochanan, thank you for joining us. And Pinchas Elio, thank you for joining us. Mr. Silverman, thank you for joining us. Thank you everyone for joining us. We're also in Shul. And Baruch Hashem, there's an oilam in Shul as well. So thank you very much, Petitz, for sending out the copies. We're getting there. I have this new computer. I still have to get the Microsoft Word on it. I'm almost there. The Vila, I'm still using something else. This computer still has a little bit of a goyish cup, but we're getting there. Okay.
Amen.
Okay. So I hold it in the left hand when I make the broch. I make Kiddush also, hold it in the left hand. Okay. It's a terrific. By the way, recently, if you noticed, we usually learn batches of sichas in a year. So this year, we one of the themes that ran throughout the entire year was some simple questions that Ashi doesn't address. And Ashi says that he's coming to explain Pshuta Shel Mikra. So either he already answered that question in an earlier Rashi, or based on the general Mahalach of Rashi, Rashi expects that even a child that's a Mechamish could come up with the answer. But you have to have a gleiche cup. A gleiche cup. Sometimes you already have a cup that's mafulful. That's mafulful. There's a beautiful word from B'Yoshev Soloveitchik. He said, why is it that was so important, the Targum Onkelos? He said, because we need someone to translate Pshat. The problem is, by the time someone was already a Gadol B'Yisrael, to translate Pshat, he was already so mafulful that he couldn't think Pshat. But Onkelos had gesagt Pshat. Anyway, the theme of many of the sichas that we recently did was where is a pshat, a kasha, a pshat pshat, and Rashi does not address it, and it's like a pella. And these are like a batch of sichas that we've been focusing on. And Be'emela, the same thing tonight is a sicha which is focused on the beautiful mitzvah bringing Bikurim and Eretz Yisrael. Farmer went down he saw that there was the new fruits. He put a little string on it, and then they would ring up the big baskets with a big fanfare. All the farmers would come together in the middle of the city, and they would sleep overnight. In the morning, they would go with the trumpets and they play music, and the cow had gold horns, and they were all carrying their baskets and singing and dancing till they came to Yerushalayim. And Yerushalayim, the people would go out to greet them. You know, if you go ever in the summer Yerushalayim, the Israeli Tourist Ministry has this unbelievable business, the Bar Mitzvah business. And you know what I mean? The days, that, especially when they read Torah, and they have this tour guides and this, David, and they're coming. They have so many Bar Mitzvahs. But sometimes I look at that and there's something beautiful about it. Some of these kids have zero connection besides this. This is their connection. And we there's a Bar Mitzvah. Hem yodim klum. But this is important. It's good. But when I look at it, I'm thinking about Bikurim, because it says that when they came to Yerushalayim, there used to be a big parade. And based how big a group it was, if it was 5 farmers, but it was 50 farmers, 100 farmers, all the guys that came out of the shops in Yerushalayim, and they would say, "Oh, greetings upon you. Where are you coming from? Oh, we're coming from the Golil. Oh, and it was always party in Yerushalayim. From Atzeres until Sukkot, it was always party. It was always parades in Yerushalayim. And Mashiach will come. That's will be. Yerushalayim will always be parades. That's it. That's always going to be. Yerushalayim is going to be a place of parades. לא, אבל הפרייד זה גם בתל אביב. כשמשיח יבוא הפרייד זה רק בירושלים. אבל כל הזמן זה יהיה. זה הביקור. It's a half a year. Every day in Yerushalayim is going to be parades. Every day is going to be parades. So, okay, this will be as big as Kani Kniz again. Why not? Right. Exactly. Oh, exactly. The truth. Yeah. זה לא פשוט, זה לא פשוט. אבל, yeah. Huh? Right. Okay. Let's read the pasuk. You come into Israel and you settle the land. You should put the fruits. Rashi said the fruits from the Shiva Saminim, Israel, and you should put it baten in a basket, which is Yerushalayim. You just to give a shevach, thanks to Hashem Yisborach. Aram Yoivedovi, Vayerid Mitzrayim, Yogisham the same yot, Visham Lagoy Godel, Otzum Barov. Vayereo is son of Mitzrim, Vayanunu, Vayikno Lena Voida Kosher. And it's a Kalashem Alakea, Vesena, Vayish Mashimas Kalena, Vayaris and Yenimus Alena Veslakatsania. Vayitzena Hashem Mitzrayim, Bet Chazaka, Zanatu, if my Godel, Vayis Moifs. Vaviena Almakum Azav, Lonas Aras Says, Erizovas Kolovat Vash. What does it feel like when I'm reading it now? Do you realize every year when I read the Agod, I think about this. I don't have yet the how did the Bikurim fall into the Agod? There's many other psukim that the Baal Agod could have used, but the whole Agod is like based on this main thing of the Bikurim. He could have used other psukim. Every every word is like the Baal HaGod explains. Why is he using? How did that Bikurim fall in? Anyway, I want to leave that aside. One other pasha? There's a lot. I'll find you a lot of psukim in. That's so condensed. Okay. עתה הנה הבאתי אסריישס פרי אדום אשר נשאת לי השם, אני אחטא לפני השם אלוקיך, ושתחוויס לפני השם אלוקיך, ושמחת בכל הטוב ונוסך השם אלוקיך לבשרך, עתה ועלי והגר אשר בקרבך. Okay, Rashi. It's beautiful. I mean, think all about the whole Bikurim is just is a beautiful. The whole thing of it is how to say thank you, and the Bikurim is really the first. Bikurim is even before Truma. In the matonis that the farmer gives from his land. The Torah makes a very big deal out of Bikurim. Torah makes a very big deal out of Bikurim. Torah Shebeksav. Mordechai. Okay. Rashi says Arami Oivedovi. Maske Chaz de Amokim. It says the Chasodim of the Eibishter. Arami Oivedovi. Who is Arami Oivedovi? Lovan Bik Shlaker is Haker Sherodov Achere Yaakov. Lovan wanted to rip out everything. He wanted to finish off Jews. Huh? Right. Because he thought to do a bad, the Eibishter makes as if he did it. Okay. That's what Rashi says. Yeah, by a Jew not. If a Jew thinks to do a sin and he doesn't do it, not counted. Machshava toiva, Hakadosh Baruch Hu metzaref l'maisa. But machshava ra, Hakadosh Baruch Hu ain't metzaref l'maisa. But by goyim, that's Hashem Sofer, right? It's different. It's Hashem Sofer. It's a yotzim and a klal, right. But here we say the Rebbe is going to have unbelievable pshat in the Sicha. I just blow your mind. Even though he's going to slug it up, it doesn't matter. Anyway, before we get into the Sicha, I just want to go through a few meforshim. Even though the time is short, to try to do as quick as we could. Look at the Ibn Ezra. Oived Ovi. Milas Oived ma'afolim shenim yotzim. It's a pearl oimed, not a pearl yotzim. Ilu hoya Rami alovon, he disagrees with Rashi. Rashi says, Arami Oived Ovi. Who's Arami? Lovon ho Arami. Oived Ovi means, Ovi is Yaakovinu. Oived, it's like a poetic, right? Arami Oived Ovi. What does it mean, Arami Oived Ovi? So Rashi says, Arami is Lovon Arami. Oived, Ovi is Yaakov Avinu. And Oived, he tried to, Ma'avid, he tried to ruin the life of Yaakov, and he tried to kill Yaakov Avinu. Ibn Ezra doesn't like that because Oived, he says, is a pearl oimed, not a pearl yoitza. It should have said Arami Mavid es Ovi. So that's the Ibn Ezra writes. Milas Oived ma pearl shenim yoitzim. Milo Arami alobon noya kosom oimed Mavid me'abed. Arami me'abed Ovi Mavid. That's what Ibn Ezra says. Vod matam leimer lovon bikish. So we'll deal with that question also soon. Yaakov is called Arami because he was an Aram. What does Oived mean? He was very lost. He was poor. Arzeda was very poor. He didn't have a penny in his pocket. Don't think that we inherit the land of Israel because we had a lot of money. We could pay, and we didn't pay any money. Don't think that because we were very strong, because we were Masei Ma'ot. The Eibusher gave it to us. He brings that ayah. Okay, whatever. So that's the Sephorah has also a similar thing. Arami Shahoya Yaakov Oyazman Ma Arami Oived Shloile Bais Moshe Malachain Loya Muchan Lahamid Goy Roy Lareshes Aretz. Because I just show you, this is not really, this is just a warm up to the Sicha. This is not the Sicha. Gur Arya, which is the Maral Prague, he writes like this. By the way, Rashi's Pshat is not just a Rashi's Pshat. Rashi's Pshat is every kid that reads Haggadah, Shal Pesach, knows that Arami Oived Ovi is Lovan Arami. That's the way the Haggadah learns it. That's the way the Sifrei learns it, right? That the difference of Arami and Pari, right? The love bikesh laker sakoil, right? So I mean, the Sifrei learns like Rashi. Rashi is learning like Sifrei, like the Agoda. Okay, but Ibn Ezra learned to Pshat. He didn't like that. Okay, so how did the Ibn Ezra read the Haggadah? Okay. Right. Well, but it's clear from the Agoda that the Bala Agoda thought that Rami Ovidavi like the Sifrei, that he was poor, but that's not the way it sounds in the Agoda. In the Agoda, it sounds like we're talking about Lova, because that's what we say. Tzei Lamad. Look at the difference between. That's the whole context of the Agoda. That yeah. That's what the Agoda is saying. The context of the Agoda is to look at the difference of Paroi and Lova. So, Anyway, okay, you're obviously the Ibn Ezra read the Haggadah and he read the pasuk this way. So, whatever. Okay. So, but Guraya is coming out to defend. He's coming out with the guns now because I can imagine the Maral Me Prague. You're going to tell me not like the Haggadah. You're going to tell me not like the Sifrei. So we grow up with this thing that the Rebbe has this thing, this Pshat, this Remes, this Drush, this Soid, but the Maral wouldn't have any of that. Brings out the guns. Shalom, Bikesh Lakeres Hakel. Irish Ovid, Kamoi, Mavid Ovi. Ovid means he tried to be Ma'abed, destroy. Ibn Ezra can write Salahasi al Chahashiv al Chachma Mesifei. Koya Lichtev Arami Ma'abedovi, Lefikach Pirish of Arami, or your Ovid of Yaakov, Shebachosakoya, Lepirish Arami Yaakov, Shoy Yaakov Baram, or your Ovid Bli Lavush, Ela Divri Abram Ben Ezer, Minu, Eshav al Chachamim, Ton Alei Masa Shal Machat, Veton Alatzai, Elav Gemalim Tunin. Usually the Sephardic Gedolei Yisrael, they are like the poets, but some Ashkenazim sometimes also a little bit try to do. Yeah, they also try a little sometimes Ashkenazim too. No, you never. Like the Ben Ishchai, if you see like classic the Chidah or any Chidah. I love the Chidah, like his but some the Ashkenazim also sometimes. He says. He has a taina against the sifrei. It's a machat. It's like a little okay, have a kasher. And he gave a pshat that it's so heavy and so schwer. It's also in Yiddish. In Yiddish we say schwer. Schwer is a kasher. It's a schwer. Yeah, no. It's a kosher, and it's so difficult. It's elav gemalim. It's like kikusha. Sheish kshal chachamim zal gishlu taretz bahar beponim v'nucha loimer oive du shem dover k'moy she's bar besamba shalkach ka'osav oive dover rotza loimer he says opposite pshat in the Maral. It's funny. Rotza loimer karami hu aveidas ovi pirush karam mishul oven hu be'atzma aveidas Yaakov k'hu choshev alav tamid la'avide v'lachein nikra arami oivet shel ovi. He doesn't have to be Pearl Yotze to do. He's 24/7. He's trying to figure out to do to ruin, to destroy him. B'shem Achochem Rabbi Yaakov Rolazah Perusha Kitomet Choshev L'Abde L'Kach Nikar Ovid Shaloi. Faket, he's saying that if you would say Me'abed Avi was a Pearl Yotze, it would have been that he did one time, 10 times, a few times, but right. Okay, listen to a little more of what he says. Yeah, I hear. But listen to this one. Like he has a few arguments. V'shem davar lo yosem menem. V'tamdu kach. Avol poel pula achas v'chem kore v'shem davar oive david. Lo yoye nikra v'shem ha'abe david. V'kach ani meishiv l'bal adiktu kasher kosher lem lahoitze mila v'loshen adiktu. Here, I mean, he concedes that he's being moitzi the mila v'loshen adiktu. He's giving a pshat why the Torah would use a word shaloi kefi adiktu. Vav ke harbe pomim kosvu al milas she'eim milas zorek. Nimtze kasher umoyim et tzarech l'pashe yoytze. Lekach kosvu vayosas oife markavoyse. V'lei beyoser poyel oim lekach v'tzarech l'pashe yoytze. So you see already that sometimes poyim is furish yoytze the other way around. There's a milo hoyakosha alav yoyse l'pashe poyel yoytze. It's not a big deal. Afki who nitchek pirish milas lapachet sheyam there's a parliament that he's from the matagim shetigim abdi eitzes in him kain omad min omed yoitze say v'chein oiloi. Sometimes we have no choice. We make a parliament that part yoitze the other way around. Dak shir holach acharam the farish mila azois bekam lelach achar daitem lachlok the chacham matagim gam kain ki loy mila zora achas kazoy tzimtzum mikra. He says also the matagim unkelus over here in this pasuk unkelus says. When Unkelus, which is translating the pasuk, Unkelus says, he says, "V'sosev v'semer kodem Hashem alahach lovan aramo abo loivoda yosaba." So also the Targum Unkelus says, like the Sifrei that we're talking about, and he's also pshat that we're talking. Arami is lovan, and he tried to ruin and be ma'abed Yaakov. So he says, "Kiloi mil zorachas because I timtzum mikra v'chol yeshlam tamem esgomur avzes kachem mehem kitam asher marna in erochik v'lei b'shemayim kosher barash liv v'od yeshlam." He says the opposite reason. Ma'achar shaliyot zamachshav l'poil shaloi ibdei. He never was ma'abedim really. So therefore, nemer eitzel zeh poil oimed rotzal oimed kepuda omda v'loyotza lakach nemer poil oimed sha poil loyotza. La'achar b'lias nevan. L'kach k'osav poel oimed. His opposite pshat now. One is because he didn't want to go because the Agod the Shapesach today says it. I don't want to hear any other pshat. Right. So he says one pshat is oimed is because he was even though really it should say poel yoytz and ma'avi that's ovi, but it's because he was always doing it. Then he said opposite pshat. Because it was never the machshava never went out, so what doesn't have to say? Oy diksha Avram Yunezek Kimata Moimer Arami Oy Bedav V'Yer Mitzrayim V'Loimer V'Lovan Lo'Yikav L'Redes Oysay Mitzrayim is a kushya Kipirish Arami Oy B'Shalavi L'Gamre V'Kadosh Baruch Hu Yitzilei V'Yer Mitzrayim U'Mash L'Hiska Shekadosh Baruch Hu Yitzilei Miyad Arami K'Mish Zocher Kadosh Baruch Hu Gol Miyad Mitzrayim V'Tam Kilo Yirtzel Atza Shtei Toivus Mimenu לקח פירש שמתחיל לו הרמי אוהב דובי לגמרי, וילד מצרים, גם שם אינו עושה, שגולם הקדוש ברוך הוא. The Ibn Ezra asked, like, why doesn't it say Arami Ovid Ovi, and they wish to save them from Lavan, and then Yered Mitzrayim? So he says, the truth is in the Sicha, he's going to give another view on this answer. So he says, because it just, the Torah doesn't want, it just wants to be Mekatzed. Arami Ovid Ovi, number one problem, Yered Mitzrayim, number two problem, and then they wish to. והנה הלם מן המוות שבתחילה לטוב הגמור ששבים בו. אילו אומר שקדוש ברוך יצל מיד לובן, הוי לפי זה הרמי עבדיה ודו בפני עצמי, עיר מצרים דו בפני עצמי, והנה, וזה אין קרוץ להגיד, התכלס רע שהיינו בו בימי יעקב, שהוי הרמי עבדיה, ועכשיו נוסע לנו ארץ תוילה, ולא בוא להזכירה, כמיילו שיש לנו עכשיו, על המדרגה שהוי לנו בימי יעקב, שהוי הרמי עבדיה. וזה שאומר בערבי פסח, מסחר בגנאי, מסיים בשבח, and there's two things of Ganai. One is the Yitzis, the going out of Mitzrayim, and one is from Lavan. That's where the Torah is Mekatz. It starts with both things of Ganai. Arami Ovid Ovi is one Ganai, V'yered Mitzrayim, and then the Abish took them out. Right, it's true. We would go back all whatever. I skip to the last paragraph. I will repeat it. Ibn Ezra ein lo yodayim v'raglayim. And he goes on to okay. Yeah. Right. Yeah. Soon you're going to get another answer for the question. Okay. So the Rebbe says the reason why Rashi couldn't say like Ibn Ezra is not just because of Sifrei. Because if you would learn like the Ibn Ezra that Yaakov was very poor, the Hemshech of all the Psukim doesn't make sense. If you learn like Rashi, Pshuta Shemikra, all the Psukim later said, no, but the point is we're saying No, we're saying Arami Oivedavi. So even as it's the Arami Oivedavi means that Yaakov Avinu was very poor. The other one is Arami. Rashi says Arami Oivedavi means that the Lavan tried to kill him. Lavan Arami tried to kill Yaakov, but that goes well with the whole Hemshech Psukim, because all the Hemshech Psukim is if you're going to say, like Ibn Ezer, he was very poor, so he couldn't afford to buy the land. The Eibishter gave them the land. So what's the gay of the whole thing? V'nitzak al Hashem, v'yishmak aleinu, v'yetziyenu, v'aviyenu al hamokim hazeh. According to Ibn Ezer, they couldn't afford to buy the land, and also they were very weak people. They couldn't afford to make a war. But the Eibishter did it for them. So then what's the gay of all the Hemshech Psukim? In Pshuta Shemikra, you have to read the whole Psukim in one Hemshech. That's why Rashi likes better the Pshat of the Sifrei in Pshuta Shemikra, because we're saying that Sai Arami and Sai Mitzrayim tried to wipe out the and Vayireo Mitzrayim, Vayanunu, Vanitzak al Hashem. The Eibishter took us out b'yot Chazaka, b'Zrei Netuya, v'Vien al Hamokim hazeh. And it flows in Pshuta Shemikra, because according to Ibn Ezer, it doesn't flow in Pshuta Shemikra. We're trying to say that they have the land, according to Ibn Ezer, even though they couldn't afford to pay for it, and even though they were weak and they couldn't fight for it. But then what's all these other psukim that we're saying, Vayirei son and Vayanuna, what's negayah? If you're saying that the point is they had no money to pay for the land and they had no guns to fight for the land. So what's negayah? Vayanunu, vayitna lena vayda what's negayah, that whole thing? It's a separate thing. So it's two things. That's why Rashi learns like in Pshuta Shemikra, like the Sifrei. Okay. Now let's get to the Sicha. I'm sorry, time is running. The only two chesadim Yid finds to say to the Eibishter is that he saved us from Lavan and Mitzrayim. Could you think of any other miracles that happened? Why is the Torah say when the Yid says Hakoras HaTov to the Eibishter? Yid brings the basket of fruits. Why not Kriyas Yamsuf? Why not Melchemes HaMolech? Why not Aman? Why not Miriam? Why not the Be'er? Why not Esher HaNecholim? You know what kind of miracle that was? There was two mountains, and the nation of Amoidi climbed in, and they were planning to pelt the Jews. They're planning to pelt. Right. It was after Yitzhak tonight, right? So why don't you mention any of that? Why does the Torah say that? But that happened before the mitzvahs bikurim. That happened before the 40th year. This is after. Moshe Rabbeinu is talking now after Melchemes Sicha v'Oig, right? That's what the first Rashi. Right. Why is it Parshas Bikurim? V'nisa v'amarta lifnei Hashem alakacha. Rashi says you should talk about Chazdei Hamokim. What are the Chazdei Hamokim? Two things: Arami Oived Avi and Vayireu son of Mitzrayim. It's true. According to the Rashbam, Arami Oived Avi is going in Avram Avinu, but then Rashi doesn't learn that way. He's looking to Yaakov. True. The Rashbam Taka says that it goes with Avram. So because we want to go back to the beginning. Rashi says Arami Oived Avi is talking about Yaakov. Lovan Bikush Laker is Yaakov. What you said that we're starting from the first miracle. If you want to go from the first to the last miracle, start from Avraham Avinu and finish with the last miracle, which is Sicha. Right now, they just killed Sicha v'Oig. Right? When Moshe is talking to them, Rashi says right in the beginning of the Dvarim that he was after he killed Sicha v'Oig. He said, "Now the people will listen to me." So, if you want to say the very first miracle and the very last, start with the miracle that happened to Avraham Avinu and finish with the miracle of Sicha. For 20 years. But right. Lost person. That's probably what Ibn Ezra really means. He means he's like penniless, destitute. He was what you're saying is what the really. So there's a lot of chasadim. Why does the Torah pick these two chasadim? Why does he pick after these chasadim? So one shot you could say that similar to what Aaron just said, that these things were two very general things, and all the other things are details. Like he went out of Mitzrayim, so he already needs to do Kriyas Yamsuf. They're hungry, so he gave them man. They're thirsty. They're ready. This is all, yeah. And also, the other ones is like Oim dem Aleinu L'Chalasein. Like these two, Mitzrayim and Lavan wanted to be Machaladi, you could say. But it's a little bit of a Doichik Pshat. There was a few miracles that happened that are not details of Lavan and Mitzrayim. Esav came with Arba Meish Ishimoi. That wasn't, Esav was not a Shikingo from Lavan. It's not like Lavan called Esav and said, I didn't get him, you come and get him. You know what I mean? Shem, when he said he was scared, and that's for alive in the Shmadati Ani Obesi. And then there was a miracle. These miracles were not a detail from the Mitzrayim or a detail of the saving of Lavan. It was a separate thing. So there are other nisim. How come after the Torah picks? I understand if you would say only Yitzias Mitzrayim. Okay, because Yitzias Mitzrayim is Arba Meishana, the Dushana. It's a very long time. But then, besides Yitzias Mitzrayim, you also picked the saving of Aram, which according to Rashi means saving from Lavan. Saved them from Esav, saved them from Lavan. Who is worse, by the way? Esav or Lavan? Who is worse? Who is worse? Esav or Lavan? In Pshuta Shemikra, Esav was worse. At least when Lavan came, he said, Lavan, you don't know what he said. He playing it, but he didn't say once. He says, "Habonim bonai." I don't want to kill them. I want to take them back home. I want to take them back home. You don't know what he's thinking with his balapoil. And Lavan say Chas v'Shalom he would take away all Yaakov and his children. But Yaman actually wasn't born yet. Esav came. I want right. Kiyora noichi pen yoboy vikani eim albonim. Pshuta Mikra, it sounds like Yaakov was more fearful of Esav than he was of Lavan. That's just the way. Lavan was his father-in-law. These were his daughters. So maybe he might have hated Yaakov. Maybe he would have wanted to kill Yaakov. Maybe a few of the sons if they stood up against him. But it's doubtful that he wanted to kill Leah and Rachel. But Esav hated him because of the bracha. Esav wanted to kill Eim Albonim. So why is it that the Torah picks to talk about the Hatzolah Miyad Lavan and not Hatzolah Miyad Esav? Yes. If we picked up Esav, we would have asked why not Lavan. But I say to pick only Mitzrayim. Mitzrayim is one good one. That's one good example, and all the other ones are details that come from that. Another pshat. You know what? I'm going to skip another few pshat that the Rebbe brings. I'll go to one pshat that the Rebbe says that's like will blow your mind. Just a beautiful pshat. Chap. Esav, the Gemara says, was a Yisrael Mumar. That's what the Gemara says. Lavan was a goy. Rashi says, what's the difference? Lavan bikesh lakas hakol sherod of Acher Yaakov. Ubishvil shechoshev asas choshev layamokim kilo asa. Shomas ha'olam choshev lamakadosh baruch hu machshava kemaisa. Esav is the Yisrael Mumar. Right. Lavan, HaKadosh Baruch Hu considers Machshava Kemaisa. Esav is the Yisrael Mumar. So even though he was thinking to kill, but then he didn't kill. So Machshava is not considered like a Maisa. Huh? Even though the Rebbe slugs it up, it's so good. It's a good shot. So therefore, how could you, the love on, it's as if he did it. And the Rebbe saved him. But by Esav, it's not counted as if he did it, because Lapoili didn't do it. But the Rebbe says that not. First of all, Pshuta Shemikra, who says that Esav had a din of Yisrael Mumer? It's like Gemara and Kiddushin. Who said Bechlal that the Ovid had a din? After Pshuta Shemikra, the Jews were picked as a nation by Mount Torah. Avram was Yitzchak Yaakov were special. There were the Ovid, but who said they had that? I mean, they had the din of Yisrael of after Matan Torah. I mean, this is a halacha shayla. Huh? Huh? If Yisrael mumar, Pashas is a Rasha, but we don't say Bagoy, we say if he thinks to do an Aveda, even if he didn't do it, it's counted as if he did it. Yisrael, we say, they're V'choshev to do an Aveda and he didn't do it, it's not counted, only by a mitzvah, or Shavah Tova. So we could say maybe Yisrael mumar is the same thing. Maybe it's the same thing. And that's why the difference of Lavan and Esav. But okay, so that's a separate question. It's a good question. It's a good question. But the stock, but that's a separate question. But Lepoil, the Gemara calls him Yisrael Mumas. You could say that, but it's a little bit doichik because the difference between Lavan and Esav is only how much Gehenim they're going to get. What's the difference to Yaakov? What's the difference to Yaakov if it's considered? It's considered if he didn't. They both wanted to do bad, and the Eibishter made that they couldn't do bad. Finished. That's the story. By Lavan, he wanted to kill. Saudi Arabia, they want to kill. United Arab. Yeah, they want to kill. The Eibishter is my Kodesh Baruch Hu Matzilenu Miyodim. What's the difference? Exactly. So that makes the question bigger. So why are we're only talking Arami? So the Rebbe says the beard is the kasha is a kasha, but the beard is simple, very, very simple. What we're talking about Bikurim, Rashi says right at the beginning, Eretz Yisrael is a Eretz Neshavas. In the years, the Yidden Eretz Yisrael, the whole idea of Eretz Yisrael is to live in Ish Kachas Gafnoi, Ish Tachas Teinosai. They're living peace, comfortable. They're living a good life. No, exactly. Gentlemen farmers. Gentlemen farmers. Azoivi, George Washington, and Thomas Jefferson, they had themselves, fields and avodim, mushvoches, that were doing the job, and they're sitting in the oisik metoida b'avodas Hashem. Not George Washington. I'm talking about the Eden in Eretz Yisrael. I'm just saying the common thing is gentlemen farmers. That was they're sitting comfortably, the daven, the malin, and they're able to get up in the morning, at 5 o'clock in the morning, to go out in the field for shteitzach. But in the middle of the day in Israel, you can't work in the field. No, in the middle of the day in the field, you can't work. Impossible. Those farmers, they don't work in the middle of the day. So what do they do? Like in Kfar Chabad, I used to stay by my cousin. Gets up very early, goes out to the paradise, and in the middle of the day, comes back home. He can't work in the middle of the day. The heat, impossible. Middle of the day, he takes a nap, he gets up, he learns a little Gemara, he learns Chitas, the Rambam. That was farmers in Eretz Yisrael. What were farmers in Eretz Yisrael? So the Yidden are recounting the Chazdei Amokim, that we're living in a beautiful place, Shekofshu v'shechilku ha'oretz. We're having we're sitting in a nice place, and we're talking about that the warp times that Yidden lived in places, and they were not bihis yashvus, just like Rachmana litzlan now in Golos that we're not. The Yidden, when they used to bring the Bikurim, we're talking before the Eibishter brought us to this land, there were places that we lived, and it was not bihis yashvus. The main thing is the Mitzrayim, Redu Shana. They were there 210 years, and they were the opposite of these Yashvus. But there were also 20 years that was Balavan was also not a picnic. The 20 years Balavan was also not a picnic. Exactly. So we want to recount, there was a lot of miracles, but the miracles that happened in Morosov Sicha and Esav, they were on the road. Esav wanted to kill them on the road. There is Chita Silikim Ala Orim with Shem, There was a lot of there's the Moidi that were, but yeah, they were not here. There were two tkufas before the Yidden came, or they were in the desert. But again, a desert is not a mokim yishu. They were there for 40 years, but that's not a mokim yishu. But there were two tkufas that Yaakov Avinu with 20 years in the land of Aram, and 210 years in the land of Mitzrayim, that the Yidden lived there, and they were the opposite of Hisyashvus. The opposite of Hisyashvus. They were avodim, and they were daigas, and they were, when you're dealing with Mitzrayim, Paray, or you're dealing with Lavan, these are nasty people. You don't know. You have to be very careful. You have to be aware that Arab lands, the Salam Aleikum, they're very nice. But you got to be careful, right? They're very friendly, very nice, but you got to be careful. So the Yidden were recounting when they brought the Bikurim, which is, but by the way, the Bikurim was not stamp fruits. You have to own land in Eretz Yisrael. Person that didn't, even if he owned land in the Yova Shamaya and Nikta Sa'ilan, he sold his land. He can't bring Bikurim anymore. It's not just you have to bring a basket of fruits, Trumas Maises. Bikurim was very connected to the land. If you didn't own land, you can't bring. Even if you sold your land, you can't bring. The idea was to show gratitude, Hakoras HaToiv, not just for the fruit, for the land, that I have a paradise, gorgeous paradise, and I have a field, and another field, and another field, and I have my house, and there's a garden, and here's the playground, and the kids are playing, and it's a good time. Didn't have a problem with Corona. What's the problem? They were all in the field. No. There's no school. There's no problems. So now that come to the base of Mikdash to thank Hashem for living these Yashvus, they're saying there was two tkufas that Yidden lived, shaloi bis Yashvus, with a lot of daigim. And these were the two tkufas. And we're saying that even though those are difficult tkufas, even though Lavan tried to be oikeres hakoil, and also Paroi, but the Eibishter saved us. But the main shmach is the Eibishter brought us to this land, that we're living now in a very nice way. That's why Be'ikr, we're talking about Mitzrayim. Ibn Ezra, for example, asked, why does Pasuk only speak 3 words about Lavan and all the rest about Mitzrayim? The Rebbe says, because there are 20 years of pain. Here was 210 years of pain. It's a big difference. That's why Be'ikr, but both were tkufas that the Yidden lived in a place, Shaloi B'Yis Yashvus, and with a lot of daiga, Shaloi B'Bitochen. So therefore, we're saying that the Eibishter is now giving us a land where we live B'Bitochen, living in Eretz Yisrael, Eretz Asher Ein Hashem Alakachem B'Bereish Shana V'Achar Shana, and we're living Ishtachas Gafna V'Ishtachas Teinosei, and we're living very nice and comfortable, and we're thanking the Eibishter. We're saying there was a time that we lived in Aram for 20 years, Mitzrayim 210 years, and that was a disaster. And we were not living good, and we couldn't sleep good by night, and we never felt safe. And it was and now, Baruch Hashem, we're living comfortably. That's why the Torah talks only about these two miracles. Right, that's why the main thing, that's why in Aram, we only say 3 words. That's what he says. Aram, Ovid, of these 3 words. And then all the rest is about 50 words. Yeah, true. The main thing was Mitzrayim. The main thing is Mitzrayim. But also for 20 years, 20 years is 20 years. 210 years is much more. There's much more Jews and much more suffering. It's supposed to be more, right? 400. So therefore, these are dafka, these 2. That's why we recount dafka, these 2. That's the Rebbe's trying, and therefore Rashi doesn't have to say it. If you just think, that's a chavush. This is what Rashi doesn't have to explain. This is what Rashi does. Simple. It's simple. Because we're thanking Hashem for the living Bisyashvus, Eretz Yisrael. Yeah. So the Rebbe says a pshat in Pnimis HaTorah. The Tzemach Tzedek says is Bikurim and Truma. We'll talk about it in the Mayim Shabbos. Bikurim is the pasuk says kibikuda b'te'ena kibikuda b'te'ena re'isi aviseich, which is Noishea, that the Yidden are called bikurim. Torah is called truma. Mem Torah was given. Torah was given a mem yoim, and the bikurim comes even before truma because Yidden are the most choshima thing. The Medrash, it says that Jews are called Torah. So, just like a fruit, says it's Tzemach, one fruit falls off of a tree. But a tree could give, how many fruits can it come over? So, the neshama that's shining in the goof is shakito compared to the neshama. Every Jew has a neshama that's much stronger than what's shining in the goof. The avodas Hashem of Bikurim is to pick ourselves up, to come close to the source of our neshama, and also to bring down into this world a light from the neshama that it should be felt all around us. That's why in the Bikurim there were two parts. They were going up with a whole parade, going up to Yerushalayim and bringing the basket. And then there was the tefillah that the person said, V'anisa v'amarto lifnei Hashem aleikecha. With hands, lift it up, right? And then he made the kriya. So there's the aliyah, and then there's the tefillah, which is like the yerida. And therefore, in the reading, we talk about these two things of love and Mitzrayim, because over there we have very strong, the Torah says, about the Indian of the Amshachim Alamayla Lamata. When by love and it says, V'yetzi Yakim Be'eshava, he goes down, V'yela Charana, to the lowest place. And what's also afterwards, it says, V'yashkim Lovan Ba'boiker. So Chassidus says, based on Kabbalah, that Lovan is Loiven Elyon, Mokar Chasodim, V'yashkim Lovan Ba'boiker means, the Alter Rebbe says, to answer your question about Lovan, how he has such a beautiful name, because in the source, we're talking about a different Lovan, we're talking about Loiven Elyon, we're talking about something unbelievable. Every year, the Alter Rebbe says, every morning, B'chol Yom Esgava, Nimshach Oira Chesed Elyon, which is V'yenashek B'bonav Elonoisav. Every day in the morning, a Yid has a service of Ava to the Eibishter, and that's the meaning of the Tefillah in the morning. And then V'yakov Holach L'daikoi, to bring the love and the Elyon down, L'mata Mata. Same thing when Yid went to Mitzrayim, it's Yehuda Shalach L'Afonas L'Takla B'Sa Talmud. And when the Yid went out of Mitzrayim, it's the same thing. Nigalei Melech Malach Golim. And the Rebbe says that's the diuk in the Lashon of Rashi. There's Yeinish of Torah that the Alter Rebbe says. Rashi is Medayik. It says Arami Oibed David Maskir Chazde Hamokim. A funny Lashon. Should say Maskir Nisim Shel HaKadosh Baruch. Something like that. Chazde Hamokim. It almost could be in Megillat Atzmaut, these words. So what's psazar? You know what I mean? Like, what is the word maskir chazde hamokim? Because you know what I mean. Like because chesed means to bring down, hamokim into mokim. The mitzvah bikurim is to bring kedusha down, because the emes is bepashtus. That's that a person might think that the main thing is that a person goes to shul and he davens. And he doesn't, and the Rishus Harabim is not disturbing me. He's not disturbing me. Whatever's going on Avenue J doesn't disturb me. But really, the tachlis is that the Yidden should be farmers, and they should come in, bring kedusha down, mata, to make a dira b'tachtonim, and that's what the Eibishter really wants. And that's the Indian of Bikurim. That right away the Yid feels in the Pashit, in the Teina, in the Tamar. The Yid feels in the Anovim, in Pashat, in this field, he feels kedusha. He feels kedusha in his field. So so b'meila, that's why we say chazde hamokim. Chesed is like bringing down, and they should bring down kedusha into the mokim, taka all around us. Say b'shal taka that in this week's pasha, that all of us should be matzliach. If it's in the milk truck or the cleaners, if it's on Avenue J, or if it's on East 16 or East 13, East 14, that we should bring down the kedusha and the of dira b'tachtonim.
Amen.
Amen.
Thank you for
Amen.
joining us.
Amen. Shkoach.
Thank you for giving us the share.
Shikoyach Jack for joining us. Shikoyach Peretz. Pinchas Shikoyach for joining us tonight. Nossi Shikoyach. Adam Yishikoyach. Yochanan Yishikoyach. A gute Nacht. Ksivach Zimatoiva.
Amen.